take your fears, your insecurities, your worries, you roll them all up into a ball, you turn those son bitches sideways and stick them straight up, then candy out!
Pick your goal and stick fucking to it. You wishy-washy motherfuckers. I can't fucking stand you.
I wanted to make sure that out of the 24 hours of the day, that I don't waste one single hour. Those hours were too precious. And so there I just want to tell people, don't give me this thing, I have a difficult time with the time and I don't have time for this and I don't have that. You have time. You make the time.
And now, welcome to the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast, sponsored by FitnessInformant.com.
What's going on? Welcome inside the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. I am your host, Fitness Informant founder, CEO, Ryan Buckeye. This episode featuring what would you call him? I guess you'd call him an OG, you'd call him a legend, you'd call him respected. John Meadows joins me for today's podcast, and John is a man who has accomplished so much within the world of fitness, within the world of sports nutrition, within the world of nutrition in general. And John has a YouTube channel with over 200,000 subscribers, friends in the business like Jay Cutler and so many more, and he's very well respected by so many. What's funny is there's a connection with John and I, not because I work with dietary supplements and his brand, Granite Supplements, is a brand that we're probably going to work with here at Fitness Informant, but he was the coach to Adam Bisick, who has been on this podcast here before. And Adam and I, we go way back, obviously. We are friends, and obviously we'll have some news here to share with you during this week's Pumped Up segment of the week. But John Meadows was a guy I wanted to get on the podcast for a long time because he brings a plethora of information. The dude's a walking encyclopedia inside the world of fitness. And anybody who you talk to who looks at this guy respects him. And they should, because he is intelligent. He is wise. He provides really good advice. And he really does want what's best for you. Whether you sign up with him as him being your mentor or a coach, or maybe you're buying Granite Supplements, John really does have your best intentions in front of everything else. So it was great to speak with John. And, I asked John a question on the podcast today. What do you want your legacy to be? And his answer may surprise you. It may not. Those of you who know John probably will be like, that's a John answer, typical John answer. But those who don't know John might be a little bit surprised by his answer. So I'm excited for you all to get over to the podcast today featuring John Meadows. Again, I find myself pinching myself every now and then. It's like I'm actually having conversations with these people. I'm not fanboying by any means, but how did I get here? I think it's been a little over a year since we started this podcast. FI has been in business for 2.5 years, almost 3 come October. How did I get here? How do I get guys like John Meadows and guys like Jay Cutler and Ronnie Coleman on a podcast? How can I pick up my cell phone and text and have a conversation with any one of these guys? It's truly humbling. It's truly amazing. And I'm grateful John took the time out of his extremely busy schedule to come on this podcast and have a great conversation with me. This week's Pumped Up segment of the week is being brought to you by Built Fast Formula's award-winning Vaso Blitz Pump Igniter. Not only is Vaso Blitz the winner of our 2018 Shield of Excellence Supplement Award for the best pump product, it is also the first nitrate formula fully disclosed with 30 servings, not scoops. When Vaso Blitz is consumed daily, even on your off days, it will last you a full month. All this for only $34.99. And as a special offer to our listening audience, use coupon code INFORMANT and save 15%. If you have not seen the news or heard the news, or you've been living under a rock, we announced a bombshell statement last week via our social media that we are filming a documentary. That's right. The documentary is going to be called Driven, The Journey to Center Stage, featuring me and my coaches, Adam Bisick, who I mentioned earlier in the show, and Mike Gritty, as I am on the quest to be the best in my first ever competitive bodybuilding show. We are going to be filming for 11 months, 10, 11 months of content on what it takes to be ready and to step on stage for the very first time. I'm 32 years of age. I've never competed. And people tell me all the time, you have no right to speak about competitions and people who compete if you don't do it yourself. Well, that's not why I'm doing this. Listen, I've had this idea for over 2 years. I've wanted to film the process, the journey, because there are so many people who get into this competitive bodybuilding world for the wrong reasons. So that begs the question, why are you doing it, Ryan? Are you doing it for money? Are you doing it for publicity? Is this a stunt? No. I'm a competitor. I like to compete. I like to be the best at what I do. And year-round, I keep my body fat at about 10.5%. I'm at 205 to 210 pounds. I am ready to step on stage and prove to the world that I am going to be the absolute best in the light heavyweight division of the NPC. And I do that in spring. Now we're going to start filming. We've already started filming for the documentary, and it's going to film through my show. My show right now is going to be either April or May, and the idea behind that is, A, it gives me enough time to prep and get ready. But also, the idea is if I finish first, second, or third, I believe, that I can go on the Junior Nationals in Chicago in June. Now, if I do a show in April or May, that means the time frame to maintain that level of conditioning and that level of training is shortened by a lot versus doing a show in October, November, and then qualifying and then having to re-prep for Junior Nationals. Now, will I make Junior Nationals? Yes, I believe I will. I believe I have the desire, the dedication, the determination, the commitment to the cause to do it. And I'm stoked about this. And what I'm also stoked about and pumped up about is the title sponsor to Driven, the documentary. We are working with one brand, and this brand will be the brand that I use their supplements to help me achieve that next level of greatness as it comes to the stage. And if you have not seen or heard this news yet, we are partnering with the brand, one of my favorite brands of all time, a brand that I used before starting Fitness Informant, NutriBio. And I have a great relationship with their CEO, Mark Glazer. He was just on the podcast last week, and it was a great fit. NutriBio not only has some of the top quality supplements on the planet that's going to provide me that 5 to 10% extra boost I need to perform at my absolute best in the gym and outside the gym. They also have general health supplementations like multivitamins and single ingredient SKUs or products, because there are going to be supplements that I need to take outside of just a pre-workout, an intra-workout, and a protein. NutriBio offers that. NutriBio offers quality, transparency, which is exactly what this documentary is going to be. It's going to be a transparent documentary. You're going to see the inner workings of the world of bodybuilding. You're going to see everything behind the scenes in my life. You are going to see people closest to me on camera talking to you all about me, about my prep. And some of the stuff that they say about me may not be pretty, depending on if I'm an asshole or not during this prep situation. Now, again, I've never done a competition. I've done a photo shoot, so I've done a prep for that, which is similar, maybe not as extreme. But I'm excited about the process because I've always said, fall in love with the process, not this perception of perfection. Listen, when I step on stage in spring, I'm not going to be perfect, not by a long shot. But if I don't dedicate myself to the process, then I'm not going to give myself a shot come spring to even do my best. And I will not. I refuse to step on stage if I am not at my absolute best that day. There's going to be no excuses, zero fucks to give. I'm excited. NutriBio is along for the ride. It is going to be a 6 to 8 part episodic YouTube documentary series, about 12 to 15 minutes in length in each episodes. It's going to literally walk you through my journey with the culmination of being on stage and how I place and how that looks. So I'm pumped up about this because it's an opportunity for me to be my best. It's an opportunity to showcase and educate everybody on the NutriBio products that I'm going to be using during prep. But it's also an opportunity to show you, the entire people out there, the world, what it's like to be a competitive bodybuilder, especially if you're considering doing it. If you're considering stepping on stage for maybe the very first time, this documentary is going to give you a look on really what it takes. What are the costs involved? What are the sacrifices you need to make? If you're a loved one of somebody competing, you're going to see exactly how it impacts my loved ones in my life. Because people should be educated. They should be informed on these things as they go into these decisions. And we are more than a supplement review platform. You goddamn right we are. We are an all-encompassing fitness and nutrition platform, and we will give you the full, honest, 100% transparent look inside the workings of everything and anything that we talk about here at Fitness Informant. So I'm pumped up about that. And you should be pumped up about that too. This week's Genius Moment of the Week is being brought to you by the Genius brand. The Genius brand offers high-quality supplements with scientifically proven, clinically dosed, all-natural ingredients. With a blatant disregard for profit margins, the Genius brand focuses on creating innovative, industry-leading wellness supplements to help you live an active, healthy, and long-lasting life. Supplement smarter today. Check out full reviews on the Genius brand at fitnessinformant.com. Listen, we just published an article maybe 2 weeks ago on carbohydrate timing around your workout, pre, intra, and post-workout. And albeit everybody out there seems to be promoting this whole concept of eating gummy bears and Sour Patch Kids and Skittles pre, intra, and post-workout. Hell, I've eaten Skittles pre-workout before because it's the only carb source that I had handy at the time. But that's not the ideal carb source. Yes, you want a simple carbohydrate, something that is digested and ingested quickly, so it can aid in restoring glycogen stores or making sure that you have a full glycogen tank as you go into the gym. But you want something that's on the lower GI scale. So something like Skittles and gummy bears are going to spike insulin response, which then is going to lead to a crash. And we had Dr. Jeff Galini do a video on this, and he said, you know what? Here's what you do. Give kids a bunch of candy and see what happens. They are laying down one to take a nap 10 minutes after eating that because they crash. Same thing with adults, okay? We crash. So if you're going to use a carbohydrate source pre, intra, or post-workout, which I recommend, look for something like, cholesterol, something of a high quality, a carb 10, something along those lines that is going to be a simple carbohydrate, but lower on the GI index, meaning that it's not going to spike insulin response and you shouldn't have the crash. If all you have handy is Skittles or gummy bears, okay, that makes sense if you need them. But try to have a quality carb supplement on hand. That is going to be your absolute best bet. All right, I'm going to lock this up and head over to John Meadows, the OG, the man that I well respect, the man who was the coach to now my coach, Adam Bisick, and the man that, I look forward to following on YouTube and social media channels because he's so educated and so well-versed in the world of fitness and nutrition. It is truly an honor to have the opportunity to speak to these people, and it was truly an honor to sit down and have this conversation with the man, John Meadows.
The BAR, Breakfast at the Ready, is finally here. The world's first protein bar made with real cereal pieces from some of your favorite cereals and the best cereals of all time. This bar has 20 grams of protein, only 20 grams of carbohydrates, with 5 of them coming from sugar, and 4 grams of fat, 190 delicious calories that you can fit in at any time. Any person can take this bar, man, woman, child, whether you're working out, you're training to build muscle, or you just need a healthy snack throughout the day. The BAR is your solution. Go to redcon1.com and order the BAR Breakfast at the Ready right now.
With the amount of hard work that I put in, I need a reputable brand.
I absolutely love this stuff.
The energy is amazing. The pumps are ridiculous. The flavor is absolutely delicious.
I was blown away by the amount of energy, the muscle pump.
It keeps me going throughout the day.
Take your workouts to the next level.
The energy was so crazy for me.
Really gives me the boost I'm needing in the morning.
You will train harder, you will see better pumps, you will go longer in the gym.
The quality of the ingredients makes a difference.
Try Rayce, you're gonna love it, I guarantee it.
Their products are top of the range, and I'm very proud to be a part of Team Rayce.
For the last 2 decades, we have been the best kept secret of the supplement industry. We've kept our heads down and worked. We pioneered full label transparency and full therapeutic doses because we believe that truly hard work requires truly effective tools. 2 decades is a long time to commit to one pursuit, but when you act with purpose and become centered in yourself, eventually you realize that you were born and bred for this. The things you once thought impossible, you now do every day. We don't like the easy way, it just doesn't feel right. We'll take the long, hard road over a shortcut any day. It takes longer, sure, but in the end, you know you earned it. And with the right team behind you, pushing yourself further than you've ever been would be just another afternoon doing what you love most.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome inside the Be Informed Live Fit podcast across the screen if you're watching via YouTube. He's a legend. Straight up, he is. And he hears it all the time. It's John Meadows, the man. Like, you're a brilliant individual, not just in fitness and nutrition, but just so many people look up to you, John. Rewind back to when you were 13 in your first bodybuilding competition, and you had dreams and aspirations of being in this world, and where you're at today, and how many people look up to you and respect you. Like, was this ever in your imagination on what you were going to accomplish in this business?
Oh, man, that is one of the best questions I've ever had. First of all, I'm not brilliant. I've just done this a long time and picked up some things along the way. When I was 12 years old, I lived in this little town. It's called Washington Courthouse, and they had an NPC bodybuilding show, and I didn't really know what that was, but I was already really into bodybuilding. And I found in either Flex or Muscle and Fitness magazine, they used to, in the back of the magazine, they had the schedule where the shows were. Mm-hmm. And I saw a show at a high school that was pretty close to where I lived. So I was like, I'm going to find somebody to take me there. I want to see this, because I was already reading about Lee Haney and Tom Platz and Sergio Oliva and all those guys. So I went to the show, and it was amazing. I loved it. I still remember the guy who won. It was actually a 20-year-old kid. He won the men's middleweight, and he won the overall. He was just awesome condition. And I remember there was a guest poser there. His name was Tony. Oh, he was from West Virginia. He had got second in the junior nationals as a lightweight. And I actually had some pictures taken with him, and he looked gigantic next to me. And looking back, he was a lightweight. So, but he looked so big to me at the time. And he was phenomenal. He actually went there to compete, and they said, "You're so good, just guest pose." But that was the first show I saw, and I was immediately like, yeah, I love the sport. I knew I loved the sport, but now I love it even more. So literally right after that show, I started looking for a competition to get into. And back then, teenage bodybuilding was actually really popular.
Sure.
And a lot of the shows you had to be 17. There was a 17 to 18-year-old class. But there were some shows that had a 13 to 17 class and an 18 to 19 class, and the winners of each class would then go for the teenage overall. So all of a sudden, these shows started coming up with this 13 to 17 age class. So I was ecstatic. So I was literally waiting to turn 13. And when I turned 13, I started competing. I was in, several shows at age 13 and 14. I got last place in every one of them, but I really enjoyed it. I loved it. And I was just kind of hooked from there.
Sure. What's interesting is bodybuilding when you were 13, 14, I don't know if people saw it as maybe taboo or what people were doing then, but even today in like 2019, there are a lot of people that don't fully understand the sport of bodybuilding, specifically competing. Not many people understand what we do to our bodies to get to that point. Rewind back then. Your parents were supportive, right? But like, did they understand why you wanted to do this?
Well, I didn't have a mom or dad. I had a grandmother that raised me. Okay. And I had one of those grandmothers that was just like, she just loved everybody in the world, right? So she didn't care what I wanted to do. As long as it was legal, she didn't care, which is kind of interesting where bodybuilding is. Right. But my grandmother was very supportive. And she was just like, I don't necessarily understand it, but it was interesting because she was a cook in a restaurant. And sometimes they'd have to throw away their food if they didn't sell it by a certain date. Right. So she was, sometimes she had access to these chicken breasts that tasted terrible, by the way. But I ate them because I thought you had to eat plain chicken breasts. But she would bring me home food. And I remember I was trying to gain weight. I always tell a story how she'd bring me home a whole cherry pie, and I'd eat the whole cherry pie at night. But I wouldn't say it was taboo, but I would say it wasn't really looked up upon back then. I remember the kids in high school all saying that looks gross, that looks terrible. I remember the adults in the gym, they were the ones that was like, no, this is cool, man, this is great. I was in a small town, but there were 3 gyms. And 2 of the gyms wouldn't let me in because I was too young. They said I was afraid I'd hurt myself. Right. But there was one gym, there was a lady, her name was Julia, I remember, and she let me in the gym. She was like, just be careful, don't hurt yourself. So I remember going into the gym, and I remember the guys, man, like, okay, these people get it. Like, they're in here, they love working out, they get it. So I had support, really. Like, like ever the people outside the gym didn't really care for it. They just thought it was weird and it was gross looking and all that, which I think is probably pretty similar to how it is today,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
People think it's gross and it looks weird. But I always felt like I didn't really care what other people thought. I've always kind of lived my life that way. Like I do care, but I don't care.
Right.
I do care because I run a business, and your opinion obviously means something to me. But I don't care so much that I'm going to let that dictate what I want to do in my life.
You know
what I mean?
Yeah, what's fascinating is obviously then you didn't have access to the internet and all this, the plethora of information, good or bad, that we have today.
Yeah.
Where did you get your information? I mean, at 13, magazines obviously was good, but did you have a mentor, somebody that kind of made a plan for you? Because now you're making plans for people on a regular basis. Like you're the guy that people look up to, but where did you get your information then?
Straight magazines. That's all we had. It was Muscle and Fitness, and they had a kinesiology section. With the muscle groups, like if somebody's done a lat pull down, the lats would be collared a certain collar, and the teres muscles and all this stuff. So the kinesiology section was actually my favorite section. That was the first thing I opened up to every month. I'd open up to that section, and that's how I started to learn what muscle origins and insertions were, and nerve innervations and muscle action and all that. I was obsessed with that stuff when I was 13 years old. And I remember when I was in high school, man, I had a really good grip on anatomy when I was in high school. I could tell you all the hamstring muscles and all the muscles, the extensors and flexors in your forearms, I remember. And I remember it was kind of bizarre. Like I'd be like, oh, let's hit this, this, and this. And they'd be like, what? But the training, what I would do, probably like most youngsters, is I would just look at the routine that was in a magazine. I would just do it.
Yeah.
So whatever Lee Haney was doing for his back, pull downs and rows, and whatever, Tom Plass was doing for his legs, his hack squats, his leg extensions, his squats, whatever they were doing is just what I did. I just figured if that's what the magazines are telling me to do, that's what I'll do. Of course, the same thing with the diet. And then as I started competing, then you start to kind of meet people in the gym, that kind of gives you some tips. Hey, have you ever thought about doing this? Have you thought about eating this? Have you thought about eating that? So the only real sources of information I had was the magazines was number one. And number two, there were some people in the gyms that were knowledgeable. There was one guy who was lived in our town that was a judge, and he was a chiropractor. And I would run into him, and he would have some things. Hey, John, you might want to do this for your calves. You might want to do that. But I would say 80% of it when I was that young was straight magazines.
It's interesting because now we have obviously the internet, but Instagram is huge. People turn to Instagram, and I kind of want to get your opinion on this because you're very well respected. Everybody becomes or wants to be Insta famous or Instagram famous, or everybody's an expert on Instagram. The social media's impact on the world of fitness, in your opinion, positive, negative, indifferent?
Oh boy, I think it's a lot of both. The nice thing is guys like me, we now have the ability to reach hundreds of thousands of people. And we've never had that before. So now you have this opportunity to not only to reach people, but you actually can make a living off this stuff.
Right.
Tell people, I get young guys all the time and say, hey, man, I want to be where you're at. And I go, well, the first 25 years, I didn't make a dime off this sport. It was just money going out. There was nothing coming in. So with social media, I'm grateful. I don't know if you know my background or not, but I worked in the corporate world for many, many years at a bank. And I would have never for me to just leave a VP job, a really good job at a bank, I would never have had that opportunity before. But social media has given us the opportunity. So it's something that's a definite blessing. The bad part of it is the part that I have a problem with. It's not even so much the bad information. Like I don't think people know, like, I don't think people think in their head, I'm going to give everybody bad information. They just don't know, right? They think what they're doing is right. Some cases you get people that just straight copy other people. But the problem I have is it's a little deeper than that. The problem I have is I always loved bodybuilding. I loved it. I still love it. And the discouraging part to me is I see people get in the sport, and they don't do it because they love it. It's just, hey, here's an opportunity for me to, to feel good about myself because I have all these followers and likes. And people even craft their social media around how many likes they get. Oh, yeah. Like people tell me all the time, why do you put those family pictures up? They don't get many likes. I don't care. I could care less. That's part of me. I like sharing. I like connecting with people. And my family is a very important part of my life. So if I get X amount of likes on a picture with me doing a most muscular pose, and it's a lot more than a family picture, I don't care.
Right.
But I think people, they get into the social media part, for the wrong reasons in my mind. And, it is what it is. But I always say that if you shut off Instagram, then half the people competing would just quit. Like they would disappear.
Right.
So for me, it's a little more personal. I just get disappointed that people do it for the wrong reasons. And right or wrong, none of us know everything. I don't know everything. Mm-hmm. I'm still studying all the time. I'm trying to learn as best I can learn. I look back at what I thought. I was doing a video this morning about how I used to think about side lateral raises.
Sure.
And we were always taught that we had to do them, with our hand going up like this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So I had my doctor taught me how to do a raise where I pulled back like this. And I remember at the time thinking, no, that's not how you do it. Now I understand a little better the function of the shoulder. And hey, actually, that is a viable thing. So, none of us know everything. So I'm not the guy that goes around saying, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong, you're wrong. Who knows? But what I do know a lot of people are in it for the wrong reasons with social media. And unfortunately, they do get a lot of the following. But my opinion is I'm just going to do my thing. I'm going to try to connect with people. I'm going to have fun, maybe try to educate along the way. But I don't get really wrapped up in that other stuff. I guess I see more the positive than the negative because of the ability I have now to make a very good living that I didn't have before,
right.
In the sport anyway.
It's a good point, too, because, one thing that we talk about is at what point do you monetize your business model or monetize your expertise in an area, and you have a very, very large following, over 200,000 subscribers on YouTube, to leave a corporate America job, especially in a VP role, a C-suite level role. Like, what did it take? Was it a leap of faith for you? Or how did you make that final decision to leave that to pursue this, your passion?
Oh, yeah, man, it was very calculated. I'm I'm the guy that plans for the disaster, mm-hmm. like when the world's going to end. So I plan everything, which makes sense why I was a good employee at the bank, because that's kind of, I had this risk mitigation built into my mindset. So for me, I look at what's the opportunity and what's the risk that I'm taking. So for me, I had to look at what's the opportunity if I leave the bank and I go into this industry. Well, the biggest opportunity was spending the whole day doing something I love and potentially making more money. But the main thing was quality of life, being able to spend more time with my family because I can work from home. And then the risk was, okay, what if you do this and you don't get many clients? What if people don't like what you have to say? How are you going to pay your house bill? How are you going to, what are you going to do about insurance? So the risk was all financial mm-hmm. for me. Like that was it. It was straight financial. So I had to understand, I just talked with Fuad about this on his podcast. So I had to really understand what was holding me back. And for me personally, it was being able to take care of my family and provide a roof over their head. Like that's your number one need as a human being, that you see that on Maslow's hierarchy. Mm-hmm. The number one thing is you got to have food and shelter and so forth. So I take a lot of pride in being able to take care of my family, as most males do. Like that's built into our mindset. We
right.
want to take care of our family. So for me, it was, I got to pay the house off. Like for me to quit this job, I got to pay the house off, because then I know my family's going to have a roof over their head. So what I did was I was still training people at the time. I had built my website. I was saving money very aggressively. I was living well below my means, so I could save a lot of money. And at the time, I remember I owed $198,000 on my mortgage. That's how much I had left on it. And I saved, and when my savings hit $200,000, I went to the bank. I wired Wells Fargo $198,000. I walked out of the bank with $2,000 to my name. That's all I had, but my house was paid off.
Yeah.
So I just felt like, wow, my house is paid off, and I didn't have any credit card bills. I didn't have any car bills. I didn't have any student loans. So the only bill I had was a house payment, and I paid it off. So I figure, okay, even if things go bad now, like literally the only income I need is to pay for my water bill, my cable bill, my gas, my electric, and I think I'll make it. So that's what it took for me. But I was very calculated. I wanted to understand. In my mind, that's what was holding me back. So that's what I did. And when I did that, I walked into the bank, I resigned, and I worked my notice that I put in, which was 30 days, which is extremely rare in the banking industry. Usually when you resign at a bank, they walk you out the door. They're like, okay, you're out of here. But I worked all 30 days. Most people put in a 2-week notice and they walk them out. I worked all 30 days. And then, what was funny was like later on, I thought, man, why was I so worried about it? Because I did really well at the bank. Like I could have always just went back. Mm-hmm. Like if things didn't go well, I could have just went back to the bank. But I for some reason, that part had kind of slipped my mind. But anyways, that's what it took for me. So that's what I did, and that's how I made that decision. It's interesting. You and I kind of have the same little story. Like I left corporate America back in March. I had a brand manager job with General Mills, which is a company I want to talk about because one of your passions is nutrition. And people's perception of nutrition nowadays are being highly influenced by companies like I used to work for, basically feeding into these diets. You can call them fad diets, you can call them what you want, but something like the ketogenic diet has been around for ages. It's the way it's being marketed today that is misconstruing what it actually is. So I want to your opinion on these big-time Whole30 keto, paleo that consumers think they understand based on consumer packaged goods, putting products out into the market versus what they actually are and what you teach, because on your site you talk about how you come from a side of fact, not fiction. So some of your methodologies people may not understand or agree with, but you are rooted in a ton of research. So I know you see it all in terms of like these different diets and nutrition plans that are out there. Like, is it getting out of hand? Well, I don't have a problem with all kinds of different nutrition plans. What I have a problem with is people saying like this is the best diet or this is the miracle diet. That's what I have a problem with. Like, I have friends that have keto diets and they like them, they enjoy them, and they do great. So who am I to tell them that diet's terrible? Right. Why are you following that? Well, you feel great. Your health markers are great. Now, would I do well in a keto diet? Absolutely not. Yeah. I absolutely would not. And I've tried it and I absolutely hate it. But I do know that we don't all have the same physiology, right? So for me to say this diet's perfect, this was not, really the fact is it just boils down to what you can actually follow. The problem with a lot of the keto diets, for example, is they just aren't sustainable long term. Right. Like people can't go low carb long term in today's society. Like how are you going to function? What are you going to do when you got to eat? Some people can, and that's good for them, but I don't have any, like, I'm not a high fat, low fat. I mean, I'm a kind of a balanced guy. First of all, let's start off with, okay, you need essential fatty acids. They're called essential for a reason. You need protein. You have to have it, or guess what? You'll die. Like, you need vitamins and minerals. Like, let's start right there. Get all the things that you need. And then if you want your diet to be a little bit more fat and a little lower in carbs, or a little bit higher in carbs and lower in fat, as long as you meet those, I don't think it really matters, honestly. I think it's overblown. I think people are just trying to sell stuff. Yeah, is really what it boils down to. So I just think it's silly how the diets are portrayed as some kind of miracle diet. Like if it works for you, fantastic. Right. Go for it. If you love the Mediterranean diet, if you love the keto diet, if you love the zone diet, whatever it is, if it works for you and you're meeting all your requirements to be healthy, that's fantastic. But the other side of it is people don't talk about how sustainable it is. Can you actually, like for me, could I live without pancakes? Probably not. Yeah, who could? Those are an essential part of my diet. Right. So that's kind of the 10,000-foot view of how I see diets these days. Well, it's like the best diet is the one that you can adhere to, right? I mean, it's kind of how we the one that you can adhere to and actually see results with and live fine with is probably the best diet for you. And what I like about you, John, is I think we can agree on this. Like, we talk about what makes a good coach a great coach, and I've always said listening. Like, your listening skills have to be one of your top priorities as a coach, because you need to listen to your clients to understand what their wants and needs and desires are before you formulate a plan of attack. There are a lot of coaches out there that'll basically say, well, this worked for so-and-so, so here, you do this. What's your approach when you bring on a new client or you bring on somebody into your program and you want to improve their life through your expertise and your experience? Well, it's really simple, honestly. I have a very detailed questionnaire that I give to people, and there's basic stuff in there like, what are you allergic to, right? Yeah. If you're allergic to something, probably not going to put it in your plan. Yeah. But I ask people, like, what do you like? What do you not like? If you hate fish, how sustainable is it for me to put fish in your diet? You're probably not going to follow it. So I like to understand what foods people like, what they don't like. I like to understand like all the, I guess the medical stuff. Are you allergic to anything? Do you have food insensitivities and things like that? Do you have certain foods that cause, I don't know, upset stomach, whatever. Right. But I try to understand that, and then you build a plan that allows them to eat what they like. Now, if they give you a questionnaire and it says, I like Big Macs and French fries, okay, now we got some issues. But that's not generally what I get. I'm coaching people who are beyond that. So I try to build formulas, or I try to build plans with things that people like. I try to avoid things that people don't like. Start there, get them comfortable with everything. And I think, like, when you start a plan with somebody, I think people get a little bit too wrapped up in starting with the perfect plan. Like, I'll talk to people and they'll say, well, it's 3,200 calories to start, but I think it maybe should be 3,300. And I'm still trying to figure this out. I'm like, look, just start.
Yeah.
The magic is going to be in the adjustments that you provide as you go along. The starting plan is nothing but a starting plan. The starting plan may be in place for a week or 2 weeks, and then it changes anyway.
Right.
So I just tell people, just get in the ball game. Let's get started, and then we'll adjust as we go. But so my approach, and I typically use a 90-10 approach. So 90% of the diet and the meal plan is going to be good, wholesome, clean foods, and 10% is going to be anything goes. Like, I have 2 donuts every Sunday with my kids. That's part of my 10%. Mm-hmm. So if say a lady says, I love chocolate, I got to have chocolate. Like, for me to tell her, no more chocolate the rest of your life. Yeah. That's kind of silly, right? So what I may say is, okay, what's a good setting for you to have chocolate in? Well, I'd love to have it ideally as a part of dessert when we go out to eat on Saturday. Okay, cool. Let's do that. Let's build that into your plan. So, because I think, here's one thing I'll share with you that drives me crazy about food. And it's people that always talk about food is nothing more than fuel. Like, that's all it is. It's just fuel. It's just calories. But food is much more than that. It's a social, like, look at different cultures. Mm-hmm. Look at the Hispanic culture. Look at the Italian cultures. People get together, they eat food. Like, that's part of connecting with each other as a family, sitting down together. And I don't like to take that away from people. I like for them to, like, food is more than that. Food it's like an event sometimes, when you sit down and eat with your family, it's much more important than just, it's just fuel. Yeah, maybe for you, if you don't have no life or you don't care about what's going on around you, but it's more than fuel. So that's kind of one of my pet peeves when I hear people talking about food is nothing more than fuel. Well, then you've got a pretty boring life.
Yeah, right.
So this is it. The new flavor is in production as we speak. We've been hyped about this for months and the time is finally here. So let's go check it out. In here. This is it. Galaxy Burst. This flavor has a burst of candy with a hint of tart, leaving your taste buds begging for more. It's fruity and creamy, yet sweet and tangy. After months of testing and formulation, this galactic flavor is sure to take over the galaxy. Now let's give it a try. So good.
Hey, what are you doing?
Oh, time to go.
What do you? I mean, you're obviously passionate about nutrition. You love doing meal plans and stuff, but constructing an actual workout plan for people, and you're different. Like you have ebooks on your website, and you have downloadable plans and purchase. You have plans available for purchase. Like, do you enjoy everything equally? Do you have emphasis on one aspect of what you do versus the other?
The training part's always my favorite. I enjoy doing training plans, like all those things you see on my website. Most of them I did myself. Here in the last couple of years, I've built them without doing all of it myself. But like if you looked at my first 15 programs I sold, I actually did those. Mm-hmm. And what I did was sometimes it was pretty cool. Like when I was getting ready for the Team Universe, that's where I got my pro card. Like I would tell people, this is what I'm doing for the Team Universe, join me. Or when I did the Arnold Classic, it was the same way.
Right.
But, and then I started to, initially I just wanted to share with people what I was doing. Is it a perfect match for everybody? No, but there is no perfect program for everybody. But what I did was I wanted people to see the concepts of how I set up the workouts. Then you can, if you don't have this machine, you can do something else. If so there's a way for you to kind of adjust them. And then I started thinking about all the different scenarios. Well, what about people that have weak legs? What about people that have a weak back? So I kept building programs that address different issues. Yeah. So now, people will come to me and they'll say, can you build me a program just for me? And I'll say, well, what do you mean? What do you want to work on? They'll say, well, I want to work on my legs. They're behind. And I'll say, yeah, I've got several programs that focus on legs. And they'll say, well, but is it for me? It's built for people with poor legs. So, I mean, it took me about 40 hours to build each one of my programs. Like I sit down and it takes me about 40 hours. I can't take 40 hours and build a program for every single person out there. But what I do have is I got about 90% of it. Mm-hmm. So if you have say, there's a machine in my plan that you don't have, then let me know. Mm-hmm. We'll make an adjustment. We'll do something else. So there's always a little bit of adjustment that you have to do. If the volume is too much for you or not enough for you, let me know. We'll make some adjustments. If you need an extra day of rest, or if you feel you're getting too much rest, let me know. We'll make some adjustments. But 90% of the meat and potatoes is built for you. So that's the part I really love. I really love training. I love reading about training. I love trying different things. I'm always kind of an experimenter at heart. Mm-hmm. And so that part, ever since I was telling you, when I was going through the magazines when I was 12 years old, that feeling has never really left. It's still there, just like when I was 12 years old.
Right. We talked earlier about social media's impact on fitness and how we perceive it today. In the world of bodybuilding, obviously you love the sport. I love the sport. A lot of stuff recently in the headlines in terms of things that are coming out. When you're coaching people with high potential, do you ever have any of those life conversations with them in terms of what to stay away from, or is that you just let that be on them?
Well, it's interesting. If you look at the people that I've worked with over the last few years, you'll see people that are very high character people. Mm-hmm. And that's not by accident. You look at the guys like Josh Wade I work with now, very high character guy. I used to work with Mark Dugdale, very high character guy, awesome guy. Ken Jackson, Fawad, all these people are really good character guys. And I seem to attract more people like that than the opposite. I do mentoring with a lot of my clients. I don't really talk about that because I just don't. But I've done a lot of mentoring recently with some females. And in particular, it can be anything from business, or it could be something as how are you going to impact other people? Do you want to leave a legacy? Well, how do we do that? What do you do if you want to be in that kind of situation? So I definitely do have a lot of conversations with like that. It's probably atypical from people in my position. I think most people in my position are probably just more about chicken and rice and lifting weights, but I'm trying to do a little bit more than that. And not with everybody, but with most of the people I work with, they'll look back and I think they would tell you, I learned a lot from John, not just from the coaching perspective on training and nutrition, but also about life. Mm-hmm. And I like that. That makes me feel good. I certainly wouldn't say everybody would say that about working with me, but I think a lot of people would say that. Yeah. And that's important to me. It's important to me. And you get to my age, man, I'm 47. I do care about leaving a legacy. Like, it is important to me. Some people kind of have this pragmatic view. Well, when I don't coach, I go somewhere else, I die, I turn into dirt, nothing matters. I'm not like that. You know, I want people to tell my kids someday, man, your dad was great. Your dad did this, he did that, he did that. So they're proud, right? Like, as weird as that sounds, that's important to me.
Yeah.
So, and my reputation is very important to me. So I try to live accordingly, and I'm certainly flawed like everybody else, but I try to do a decent job.
You mentioned you're mentoring women a lot lately too, and that's something I want to talk about because I don't know if it's talked about enough, but like women's progression within the sport of bodybuilding. I look at the Olympia, for instance, and I had this conversation with Matt Porter, rest in peace, before he passed away, about how at the Olympia they're at the expo. They don't really even get a chance to be on the main stage, which I think is offensive in some retrospect, that they deserve the same recognition as the men do too. But in your career, women's progression in bodybuilding and fitness, there's still a lot of room to grow for this. Am I right?
Well, when I started, there was no such thing as bikini or figure or physique. It was just bodybuilding.
Sure.
And the bodybuilders were freaks of nature. They were very heavily muscled. There was an era, like the Rachel McClish era, where the women were more like movie stars, right? They were fit. And then Corey Everson came along, and Corey was bigger, but she was still feminine. She was still very attractive. She was very pretty. And then Linda Murray came along. And Linda was even a little bigger than Corey, but she was still very feminine, very attractive, super attractive, still absolutely stunning, beautiful. And then the physiques just kept getting bigger and harder and bigger and harder. And the IFBB did nothing. They let the women get like that. They rewarded it. So the general population says, I don't want any part of that. They look like men. And the feminine that gave rise to other. So then bikini came along, and fitness. The girls done gymnastics, and then figure came along, and then physique came along. Physique is starting to turn into the old women's bodybuilding. The women are getting very hard. A lot of the women on stage have fake hair. They've lost their hair from all the drugs they're taking.
Right.
A lot of them have some massive issues when they're done competing. You'll see a lot of women that are gone now that were there, the top names a couple years ago. So it's interesting, man. And the figure girls are getting bigger and harder now. Like, at some point, you've got to stop the women from getting bigger and harder.
Sure.
It's just a different ballgame than men, right? Men can put in male hormones, but when women put in male hormones, they turn more male.
Right.
And, I've always had a very conservative approach with women, and I'm very open about it. And when women come to me, I'll say, look, you're going to be at a disadvantage. I'm not going to put you on test. I'm not going to put you on trend. I'm not going to put you on Anadrol, because there are male coaches out there that'll do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're going to be – they do. There's a lot of them out there. So you're going to be at a disadvantage. I'm just telling you that right now from working with me. So I just wish that the whole chemical thing is listen, I love to experiment, right? I did a lot of things when I was younger. I love to experiment, but there's a point where it just gets ridiculous.
Yeah.
The doses are ridiculous. And a lot of the coaches now that have come into the sport, I don't think they know any better. Like, they legitimately think you need 1,500 milligrams of testosterone to get better. Like, they think 700 milligrams is nothing. And it's ridiculous. I don't know. I think they actually think that in their head, because and the problem is, it's the young generation that comes now. They think that's normal. Like, they haven't had somebody like me tell them, I did my first show with a 30 cc bottle of Winstrol and I won the men's overall.
Right.
Really? No tests, no trend, no GH. Really? Seriously? Yeah. The first year I got to nationals, I'd never taken GH before. The first time I won a state title, I'd never taken tests before. So I think the younger generation now, they don't even know that. Like, they think that all the gram of trend and all this stuff is necessary to compete. And that's just because the coaches don't know any different. The coaches think that's what you have to do. So that part is disappointing to me too, because you have a lot of health problems.
Yeah.
And, a lot of the guys will say, well, it has nothing to do with bodybuilding. That's kind of the common answer you get. Listen, sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I can tell you there's a lot of guys with hammered kidneys right now.
Oh, for sure.
You don't hear a lot about them, but they're out there. There are a lot of guys with some massive problems with their their kidneys and unmanaged blood pressure. And so, you know, it was a little different in the 80s and 90s. Of course, there were the guys that went heavy, but it was the majority of the guys were pretty moderate, and they just trained like maniacs, and their nutrition was really clean. It's probably too clean. Like you only could eat plain chicken breast, for example. Probably a little too clean, but just a little different approach.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have great information on your website. It's mountaindogdiet.com. Obviously, you are Mountain Dog One on YouTube with a bunch of different training videos. I just watched your leg crusher video from the other day with Corey Vincent, who I'm friends with as well. So you guys killed that. Let's shift gears to Granite and getting into sports nutrition, because it's the wild, wild west. It's a crazy industry, as you probably are well aware of at this point. But I mean, you're doing nutrition, you're doing workout plans. Obviously, you're probably having your clients take supplements, and you're taking them yourself. At what point do you decide, John, fuck it, I want to do my own line, something that I believe in?
Probably when I got hosed, working for Singerman.
Sure.
It was the time where I said, you know what, I'm just going to do this myself. And I was always a big supplement fan. Like, I remember I didn't have a lot of money growing up, but I would sure find a way to save money to get to the supplement store to buy my big bags of Mega Mass 2000 and Dynamic Muscle Builder. It was interesting back then because we didn't care what stuff tasted like.
No,
right?
Not at all.
You just, hey, does it work? Yeah, it works. Okay, that's all I need to know. You know, it's a little different industry now. Like, taste has become number one with products. But I've always loved supplements. I think a lot of them are probably baloney. But I do think there are some supplements that do help. Like, they really are beneficial. And I just decided I'm going to do this myself. I'm going to, try to build products that I would use. I'm sure everybody says that, but a lot of the companies now are run by corporate people who don't really, they're just dollars and cents people.
Right.
You get some guys that are that really truly care about their supplements. There's several companies I have a lot of respect for, and it's funny. Like, I was at a seminar a couple weeks ago, and there was CEOs from multiple companies there, and somebody in the audience asked a question, and they said, well, if you couldn't take your own products, whose would you take?
Mm-hmm.
And they were just like, oh no, I can't say. Like, they were very hesitant to say. I will tell you, like, I love supplements. I'm taking different company supplements all the time.
Right.
There's a guy named Ben Hartman, and owns a company called Morphogen Nutrition.
Yeah,
I love Ben's a lot of his stuff. I love some of the proteins that Ambrosia's putting out. Mike Sheed and those guys. I love that stuff. Like, I love a lot of the life extension stuff, the Gero stuff. I take all kinds of stuff.
Sure.
And so I guess what I'm trying to tell you is I love supplements. Like, I really do enjoy supplements. And even though I've got them pretty much for free since the 90s, I still spend an inordinate amount of money at the supplement stores every month.
Sure.
So I just love supplements. I wanted to give it a try. It's a tough business. I've learned a lot. We're in our third year now. And it's been an interesting go at it. I've learned a lot, man. A lot of lessons have been hard learned.
Yeah.
They're very hard lessons. But we're doing really well now, and we wouldn't be where we're at if it weren't for those hard lessons, which is how life is, right?
Yeah.
That's how life is. You learn hard lessons, and you can either fold up your tent and quit, or you can learn from it and you can get better.
Right.
And that's no different in the supplement industry.
It's interesting. I had a conversation with Chris Gethin, too, at dinner one time, and we talked about the role of supplementation in your overall nutrition plan. And we said, like, if your diet's on point, your exercise is where it needs to be, supplements can give you the extra 5 to 10% of a performance boost that you're looking for. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And that's what people like me want. You want that extra 5 or 10% because what I wanted my whole life was I wanted to hit my genetic potential.
Right.
Like, I want to get better and better and better and better until I hit my genetic potential. Like, that was my goal my whole life. And so if supplements can give me a 5 to 10% better chance of that, or can get me to that last 5 or 10%, then, hey, man, I'm all for it, But I would agree with that.
Yeah, you guys have, under the Granite line, you guys recently just rebranded it as well. Didn't you have a new look to the supplements?
Yeah, we rebranded a little over a year ago.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But we've really, In probably the last 8 months, it's almost like a brand new company. We have a completely different staff. We have the only holdover we have from when we started. Oh, let me turn this off.
Yeah, you're good.
The only holdover we have is one of the other owners, in addition to myself. But we as in me, I made some bad decisions, and I brought on some people I probably shouldn't have brought on.
Sure.
And so we had to make some major changes, and we did, man. We made some major changes. We essentially started over, and we rebranded, but the rebrand was it wasn't real popular, but now it's working really well.
Right.
You know what the interesting thing is so, you work somewhere like at the bank, like where I was, and you try to find people that have really good experience, right? Like, if I'm going to have you do this function, you need to be damn good at it.
Correct, yeah.
And I tried to apply that in the supplement industry. I tried to find sales reps that had been sales reps in the industry before. I tried to find marketing people that had been marketers before in this industry. And the approach really kind of backfired on me.
Sure.
I hired some people that were just not good employees. So shame on me for not doing more due diligence, right? And then I changed my mind and I said, you know what? I'm going to start to build the brand around just good people. Like, supplements, they're really not rocket science.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just get really good people. So we kind of changed our marketing, we kind of changed our hiring model, and we started to just build a company around good people. And when we did that, it's the best move my company ever made.
Sure.
Since we've done that, I like the stores. You could probably see the stores are behind us now.
Mm-hmm.
They love what we're doing. We've got all of our stuff off Amazon. So, I had salespeople that were selling stuff to Amazon resellers that were undercutting us and things like that. But we've really cleaned up our act. And I know a lot of brand owners probably would hate to have this conversation with you, but this is what happens in the industry.
Right.
So we've shut off Amazon pretty much. Like, there's nobody coming through now buying stuff and undercutting stores. So you see the stores are behind us now.
Mm-hmm.
We've got better customer service. So you see consumers are getting behind us again. So we really have some good momentum. We have some new things coming out. But now we're really kind of hitting our stride. This month, actually, July is the best month we've ever had in our company's history.
Congrats. It's awesome.
And I think August is going to be even better. So we're really excited now, man. It's a different company. We've always had good formulas. Like, the formulas were never the issue.
Right.
The issues were beyond the formulas.
Mm-hmm.
Some companies do great, but they have terrible formulas, but they have great margins, right?
Great margin, great marketing.
They have great margins. They got a $4 product, right?
Yeah.
So the formula was always good. It was the way we ran our business that needed a lot of work.
For sure.
So we're getting better. We're doing a better job. It's paying off. We need to keep doing a better job, and we need to stay true to who we are. We need to continue to live with good people, and just kind of build from there.
Yeah, it's interesting because I look at your formulas are great, and then we're big at FI too. And when we talk about the sports nutrition side, like let's look through bullshit marketing and let's look at these formulas. Are people spending money on something that's actually going to give them that 5 to 10%, or are they spending money on something that just looks cool and they feel cool taking? Because there's a big difference between the two. And you guys are a big brick and mortar brand. You guys have your granitesupplements.com. Any plans to extend online retail, or you really love to support that brick and mortar model?
I will not. It would take. I can't think of any scenario where I would get people undercutting our brick and mortar stores on Amazon. We sell on Amazon.
Right. To protect MAP. Yeah, it makes total sense.
To protect MAP.
Yep.
We do that, but I can't think of any scenario where I would let anybody come in and sell on Amazon for us. Now, there are some customers we have, like Mark Lobliner, for instance, sells on his website.
Tiger Fitness. Yep.
But Mark does a phenomenal job of protecting MAP, so I have no issues there. But as far as Amazon goes, no plans to change that. We'll just, as far as brick and mortar goes, we're expanding that. We've got great partners. We got a big event in Natural Body next weekend. We've got an event in Toledo, Ohio with Jay Cutler actually this weekend. The weekend after we do the Natural Body event, we're going out to Rayce. Rayce has a great presence.
Yeah.
Everywhere out there.
Yep.
So with Tim and folks, we've got a We just started doing business with the Nutrition Corners, not the one in Virginia Beach, although we did start with them.
Oh, great.
The other Nutrition Corners up in like Massachusetts. Yep. We've got an event that we're going to do up there here pretty soon. So, look, the stores are what help you get your brand name out there. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the companies will use that and get their name out there, and then they'll just start doing all kinds of BOGOs and crazy deals, and they'll pull people to their website. And that's unfortunately what a lot of these cheap brands, the marketing brands, do. But until the stores stop doing business with them, they'll continue to do it. And then the stores get mad and they go, well, I can't believe they're doing this to us now. Well, you let them in. Yeah. And this guy's done it at every company he's been at. Yeah. So, but I have a love for the stores. I still go to the stores all the time. I go to the stores sometimes to buy my own products. Mm-hmm. And they're like, that's weird. I'm like, no, man, I want to support you. I appreciate you supporting me. So it's just a little thank you. We're redoing our website. It's almost done. It is absolutely phenomenal. And in probably a month, you'll see one of the coolest websites that you've ever seen in the supplement industry. We've been working on it for about 6 months now.
Okay, awesome.
And we have some new stuff coming. We have a protein powder coming out in Q4 that's a blend. It's milk, beef, whey, egg. It's a really cool blend.
It's a different blend. Yeah, it's very interesting.
It's a very cool blend. It's got I put a really good dose of digestive enzymes in it. Put some good protease in it. I'm using some clean cream in it to get some healthy fats in there.
Sure.
MCT powder or avocado powder, one or the other. But we've got some new flavors coming out of the pre-workout and the aminos. We're probably going to change some of the formulas a little bit to make them even better without even changing the price. Now our business is going well enough that we can buy in a little bit more volume, so we can get a little bit better cost of goods. Mm-hmm. And with a little better cost of goods, I work with people now that are really excited. They want to make a difference. So instead of saying, okay, we'll just take the extra money and run with it, they're like, hey, you know what? Let's add a couple things that make sense to this product so it's even better now without changing without even changing the cost. So nobody will see any increased cost, but we're making it even better. So I work with some really good people now. I got some real good co-owners that share my vision, and they're sharp business people. So really cool stuff happening, man. I'm really excited.
Yeah, you should be. I mean, it's a great line. It's going to keep expanding. The protein sounds super interesting, and obviously, always improving is kind of the goal. And that's like your mantra with training and nutrition too, right? You don't go to the gym trying to be the same as you were yesterday. You want to improve. Same with the supplements, especially in this industry because it's ever changing. There's a lot of these upstart companies that are very innovative, doing some really unique, cool things, and it's cool to see you guys staying on top of that too. I'll see you at the Natural Body event if you're going to be there. Awesome. I'll be out there covering that with Steve and the rest of the crew. But I appreciate you coming on. For those listening, obviously you guys can support John. GraniteSupplements.com is the supplement line. But if you're looking for coaching or plans, that's over at his website. The official website, which is mountaindogdiet.com, Mountain Dog 1 on YouTube, over 207,000. That's crazy. 207,000 subscribers on YouTube and all the views that you get. So your final question then. You said you want to leave a legacy. What is the legacy that you want to leave whenever you set off into the sunset?
The biggest legacy is how I treated people. And I think there are some pretty cool things you can take from my story. I think everything I've had to do, man, nothing came easy for me. I mean, everything from my athletic career, I was an average kid that worked really hard to be just a little above average. From a bodybuilding perspective, 16 tries at pro qualifiers until I finally made it. At some point, you're going to see that with the supplements. You're going to see a guy who had to grind forever before they finally really made it, but I know we will. A legacy of not quitting, of not blaming others, of just putting your head down. But I also want to leave a legacy, man, that I just love people and I love social interaction. What good is all the success in the world, man, if you don't have love for other people? It's just useless, right? Mm-hmm. So, like I said, I never had a mom or dad. I want to be a good father. I would love for my kids to someday go, man, I had the best dad in the world. That's really important to me. But above anything else, man, it's just like, what kind of connection did you make with people? And, I was having a discussion with Paul Carter today. We were talking about business. And I said, I thought I shut that off. I said, I don't have any really special knowledge. I think a lot of it is just I can connect with people. In a lot of cases, I know how they feel. I've been there. I know what it's like. But it's getting harder to connect with people because if you look at social media, people don't even sit down and have dinner nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just the basics of the family unit are breaking down.
Right.
Being able to have a conversation with people, sitting down. I mean, when's the last time, a lot of people ask them this, when's the last time you just called somebody to just talk to them? Like, literally just called to talk to them.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a kid, we always called all the girls we liked, and we'd sit on the phone with for 2 or 3 hours, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Can you imagine just randomly calling a girl now and talking to her for 3 hours? Like,
it doesn't happen.
Like, it doesn't happen now.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that I want to leave a legacy on. I stand up for what I believe in. There are certain things that I believe in that I won't compromise on it in terms of just personal beliefs I have. But stand up for what you believe in, love other people, be a good dad. Like, those are the things that I really hope someday that people associate those with me. Like, when they hear my name, I want them to think, oh man, that dude had a big heart. He really cared. He loved his family. He was a very fair business guy. He brought a lot to the industry. He taught us what concoction bowls were. He taught us what the Meadows row was.
Yeah.
So there's some cool little things now that I see that I think I've made a little bit of an impact in the industry.
For sure.
I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, man. Well, you're definitely well on your way. I mean, you're already there. So you've accomplished so much. You've done enough. I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to sit and chat with us. So thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Guys, that was John Meadows, the OG, the man that's well respected within fitness and nutrition, the guy who has his pro card. Literally an open book, man. He does not hold back from talking about things that he believes in, and I respect the hell out of that. And I respect the hell out of John, and I'm glad that I've struck up a friendship with John. Obviously, when this podcast comes out, I've been hanging out with John at the Natural Body Block Party in New York City. I hope to extend and expand on that relationship with John. And in terms of our podcast here next week, we filmed a bunch of content at the Natural Body Block Party, so fully expect somebody or a collaboration between many people at the Natural Body Block Party being our next episode of the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. It's good stuff. It's great stuff. I'm glad I get the opportunity to go out to these things and to, be educated myself from people who have done so much and have accomplished so much more than I have at this point in my life. I'm 32 years of age. I'm just going into my first bodybuilding show coming in the spring. A lot of the people at the Natural Body Block Party have competed before, so you guys are going to get a good look at my connections as well, because I guarantee I'm going to get advice from people within this industry that's going to help me be successful on stage. People like Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler is going to be making a cameo in the Driven documentary. It's very cool. It's very cool that they have agreed to come on the documentary and do some cool stuff with me. So, guys like John Meadows, hoping I can get him on, Jay Cutler, maybe Ronnie Coleman, Branch Warren, plenty of people who've done it before me. And, it's just amazing, again, as I said in the opening of the show, that I have this opportunity, that I've been presented this opportunity to bring the correct information to an audience of people who give a shit. And I appreciate your support. And if this is the first time listening to the podcast, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to hit that subscribe button to help us out, that'd be great. If you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube, you can help us out as well by writing a review. It helps out the algorithm so more people can discover the Be Informed, Live Fit podcast. And just support, man. Come back to every week to listen to these podcasts. Go to fitnessinformant.com. Check out all the content and information we have there. That's truly what's important to me, is that you get and you digest the information in which we provide, which is going to help you make better informed decisions when it comes to your health, fitness, and nutrition. Until next week, I am Fitness Informant founder and CEO Ryan Buckeye. We hope you were informed. We hope you live fit. And everybody, as always, hang loose.